Hello, everybody, and welcome to another exciting and scintillating episode of the Chocolate Bros podcast.
Hello, everybody. I am Brian Horsley, and that is Adam Pearson, and we are the Chocolate Bros.
You came in piping hot, bro.
That's right. I'm sizzling over here, baby.
Yeah.
This is how I do it, Adam.
If you want to check out our chocolate company, check us out at fortunatochocolate.com.
That's the website
where we sell fine chocolate online and we'll ship to you. We stopped shipping during the summer because of hot weather, but we just opened up 17 states and more states are going to be forthcoming. You'll notice we have somewhere in the range of 2,000 5-star reviews online. We've been doing this for 13 years. We just started selling chocolate to the general public in 2020. Prior to that, we've been wholesalers selling to 5-star restaurants and chocolatiers in 30 countries. But we're having so much more fun selling directly to customers.
And not just 5-star restaurants, not just chocolatiers, but we sell cacao beans to chocolate makers also.
Very right. Yep.
A couple dozen countries, and they make some phenomenal chocolate. We make some phenomenal chocolate. The bottom line is we got these beans, man, and these are the absolute best cacao beans, in my opinion, in the world. They're these heirloom pure nacional beans, genetically tested, organically produced by our good friends in the Cacao Growers Association. And man, oh man, we just couldn't be prouder of the work that those farmers do and the chocolate that we make from it, and that all our bean clients make from it. So get out there, try our chocolate, try their chocolate, try any chocolate, but just have some chocolate, listen to the podcast. Let's have some fun.
Yeah. Hey, bro, you remember a couple of episodes ago, we were talking about great chocolate experiences that we've had in the past?
I recall that. Yes.
One that I regretted that I forgot to mention was, did you ever try the cookies and cream bar from Holy Cacao in Israel?
No.
Dude.
Really?
So the guy in Israel, who's an Orthodox Jewish fella.
Very Orthodox. Yes.
Yeah. He made white chocolate from our cacao. He's got a press on site. He squeezed out the white chocolate from our cacao. And by the way, so for our listeners, the way my white chocolate is made is it's made with cocoa butter.
Right. There's no cocoa solids in it. It's cocoa butter, milk, and sugar.
Yeah. You squeeze out the cocoa butter, which is the vegetable fat that's inside a cocoa bean, and you mix it with milk and sugar. So he made white chocolate with our cacao, and then he used our cocoa nibs and put it in the white chocolate and called it Marignon cookies and cream.
Oh gosh, no, I never had a chance to try that. I've dealt with him before as a client, and I've dealt with his he's one of the few people that picks up beans from us in Peru rather than receiving them as we ship. And I've dealt with his Peru guy many times in terms of delivering beans to them. Always an adventurous experience, but I've never had the opportunity to try any of his. That bar
is outrageous. White chocolate made with our cacao. I don't know if you've ever tried white chocolate made with. Oh, you haven't even tried white chocolate made with our cacao. I've tried probably 3. It is so good, dude.
When some of us are down in the Amazon jungle slaving away to get these beans shipped out, Adam, we don't have the opportunity to try lots of fancy frou-frou products made with our cacao beans. So congratulations to you, friend. But no, I've never had the opportunity.
This is a common thing that operations guy always complain about. Look, hobnobbing with the customers and trying their products is an important part of the job. It's valuable.
Every time we go to the Northwest Chocolate Festival and you have the chance to hobnob, you don't even knob any hob.
That's not a good environment for hobnobbing, bro. We've been over this. They're not there to hobnob with us. They're there to sell their products.
Adam, I find you to be an enigma wrapped in a mystery, deep inside a box of contradiction.
All right. That's a good thing, bro. Look, that's how we keep the people coming back. We're mysterious.
You're the sizzle on my steak, homie.
Yeah. All right. So today we're going to be talking about, today's a primer for all the people who want to know how chocolate is even made from the time a cacao pod is harvested in the jungle until the time you put that sweet, delicious chocolate into your mouth. We're going to walk you through the entire process.
And not even so much how it's made, but I want to even talk about more about how it moves, because most people don't even think about the way things move from one place to another. And I love that. Logistics is actually the linchpin of any operation, any global business, which we are. We're a micro global business, and any global business, any business that needs to move product from one place to another, which is almost every business, requires a keen ability to do logistics, and logistics are devilishly hard. They're complicated. Everything can and does go wrong. And the companies that can't manage their logistics well don't stay in business for long. And right now it's worse and more challenging than ever. I'm clapping for emphasis, Adam. It's worse and more challenging than ever.
And I can't help but nod right along on the rhythm of your clapping. That's
Absolutely.
the good thing about clapping. You get people to buy into what you're saying.
That's right. We may actually do a little square dance. Grab your logistics partner, do-si-do. We're gonna do some kind of clapping rhythm thing. But honestly, logistics and logistics is something I understand from. I guess I would take that back to my military experience, where logistics is a constant thing that you're focused on. And when we very first started this project, I was focused on logistics from the very beginning, because I know that if you can't move things efficiently from one place to another, then you're just not going to be able to go anywhere. And the reason I'm bringing this up now, I think it might be interesting for folks. It's a fairly uninteresting subject, except if you're hearing about the logistics, a logistics chain as crazy as ours, as wild and woolly as ours, and for a product that you love, like hopefully the listeners love.
I think when we get into it, and I think what's helpful and what I've been able to do in the past that has helped people get interested in this is to talk about the environments that stuff is moving through.
Absolutely.
But dang it, I just lost the train of thought that I was gonna.
Well, Adam, you're getting a little older, and things are going to start happening to you more and more often. As an older gentleman myself, I can tell you. Wait, what was I saying?
What were we even talking about?
I don't know. Is this recording?
Yeah. So, I remember what I was going to say. So you used the word frou-frou earlier.
Yes, I did.
And there's a lot of
specifically to refer to you and your chocolate activities. Yes.
But I'm going to pivot off of that.
Go ahead.
Let's deflect the attention from myself.
Deflect and advance. Absolutely.
Yeah. A lot of the frou-frou products that are sold in any store or on any website, let's even take something, I don't even know what's frou-frou nowadays, but let's just say
white chocolate cookies and cream.
But let's just say, what's one of those famous Italian designer brands?
Gucci.
Versace. Let's go Versace.
Fine.
All right. So you go to a Versace store. It's very high end. It's very elegant.
I'll take your word for it. I've never been.
I never have been, but I'm assuming that it is. But those Versace bags went through a very unfrou-frou process.
Absolutely.
To end up at that store.
That's an industrial product that utilizes modern industrial logistics.
And even things that are produced in the craft way, everything is way more blue collar than people want to acknowledge.
That's right.
Like everything, and that's fine. Chocolate is.
Well, by the way,
a very good example of that.
There's something to be said there, because yes, I called it frou-frou. It might be a frou-frou product, but the act of making that product is very 19th century. It's an artisan. When we think of artisans traditionally, we think of a blacksmith or a leather worker or something like that. And there are chocolate makers that operate on that plane, doing a lot of things by hand. It's physical, it's heavy. We computed that you have to lift the weight of the bean or the chocolate 70 times before it gets to a customer. That's hard work. It's sweaty. And so logistics is just along the lines of what you're saying. It's extremely blue collar. It harkens back to previous days when bales of cloth needed to be hand loaded on wind driven ships and taken from one place to another. It's not that different now.
Totally agreed. So, all right, let's start at the beginning of the process here.
Let me take you, Adam.
Yeah, please do. Paint a picture with your words, Brian.
Let me take you, Adam, to a cacao farm. You've got your rolling hills. You've got your beautiful green, 1,000 shades of green. You've got some rice fields. You've got some coffee growing under the canopy of mango trees. And you've got banana plantations. And you've got all different kind of growth. And you've got cacao trees, which typically are, from 15 to 30 feet tall, with these big, brightly colored American football shaped pods that grow off the low branches
and size. They're the same size.
They can be that big. Yeah, they can be as big as like a Nerf football, certainly. Those have a very stout, like up to half-inch thick stem that connects them to the trunk of the tree, and those have to be harvested with a pair of clippers or a sharp implement called a media luna, half moon.
It's a curved blade that easily kind of gets in behind the stem, and you can
either pull or push and get it off. So you start with a cacao pod on a tree, And so logistics is the science, the art of moving things from one place to another. So the first thing that has to happen is you have to get that pod off the tree and move all the pods. So each tree on any particular harvest day might have from 3 to 20 pods that are ripe and ready to be harvested. So typically somebody will come and cut those pods off that tree. But you don't want that person to stop cutting pods off the tree and move the pods somewhere. You want a different person to take the pods to another place. And you don't want to go around opening the pods under each individual tree. Then you'd be carrying the weight of all the beans that you took out of the previously open pods. So you want to centralize the pods in one place to crack them open and scoop the beans out of them. So the first step in the chocolate logistics chain is cutting pods off tree and taking the pods from under that tree and all the other trees around it to a central collection point.
And so how do we make that happen?
The farmers do it by moving it with their bodies. They typically have a bag, at least in Peru, and there are different variations of this, and there are mechanized versions of this. But in our particular case, they have a bag called an alfajor, which is basically like a shoulder bag with a big wide piece that goes over your shoulder and a big carrying pouch in the front and back so that you can even out the weight. And it will hold 30 or 40 cacao pods on the front and the back. And these things are heavy. So you can have as much as 60, 70, 80 pounds of cacao pods in one of these things. And you go from tree to tree and you slip the cacao pods in the front pocket of the alfajor. And then you switch the front to the back and you fill the other pocket and try to keep the weight easy. Normally you would fill it halfway, turn it around, fill it the other half, fill the other pocket halfway, turn it around again and fill both pockets up to full, and then take them probably a few hundred yards to a collection point where typically the owner of the farm, the father of the family, is sitting there surrounded by a growing pile of pods deposited by people that are bringing them to him.
So the collection point is on each farm?
On each farm, each cacao grove, because some farms have multiple cacao groves, each cacao grove will have one spot, which is typically the designated place where people will, and by people, I mean, it could be family members, it could be the kids once they get off of school. And I want to make a clear distinction here. This is not the child slavery situation that exists in Africa. These are farm family kids contributing to the labor of the farm, as has been done since time immemorial and still happens in the United States and every other country.
But these kids are still kids. I mean,
these are kids, and they play and they open them up and they run around and play hide and seek. And 6-year-olds are not being asked to carry heavy weight. 14-year-olds are being asked to carry heavier weight and to work harder. But the whole family contributes to the labor that supports the family. And this is an absolutely established and non-controversial form of family labor that exists everywhere.
We do it here too. I make my kids work. I make my kids work at different parts of the chocolate business. I mean, we don't have cacao trees here, but
my daughter's got a cleaner room. Same thing.
Yeah, and I make my kids go out and sell chocolate if they want money. So it's work, but it's a different kind of work. So anyways, keep going. So
they'll come to step one in the logistics chain: tree to pod opening point. And that can be, that can be carrying a heavy bag of cacao pods uphill in the rain, in the mud, with mud boots on, Wellingtons, through kind of rocky, uneven, leaf littered ground up to the collection point. That's hard work. It's hard work to cut the pods off the tree, and it's hard work to take the pods from the trees up to the collection point.
Well, and in the rain and the mud. That's hard walking, dude, and that's hard carrying.
It's hard work. And if you've not seen a hardworking mom who's the wife of the farm owner, while he's opening pods, she's bringing she's hoofing it. And I'll tell you what, those are some hardworking folks. God bless them, because they're busting their behinds to get those pods up and get them collected.
So now we've got a pile of cacao pods that looks just like a pyramid, right? They're stacked up in that way.
Mm-hmm.
So
this could be a big pile. This can be 3 or 4 feet tall and 15 feet across, and with hundreds and hundreds, thousands of pods in it. And so next you have to open the pods.
And now you show up with a caravan, right? This is how it looks. Somebody's got to show up at that farm with a truck.
No, motorcycle. So then those pods are going to be opened and the beans taken. And the pods have a thick rind. Think about the rind on a watermelon, like that, but of that thickness, but tougher. They have to be either chopped open with a machete or a special opening, whacked with a special pod opening tool made of wood or metal, or you can take a rock that's got a kind of a ridge on it. You give it a good whack, turn around, give it a good whack on the other side, and it'll split. I prefer the rock method myself. It'll split. Normally, when you've got that many pods, one person will be opening the pods, and they will hand the open pods off to someone else who will actually scoop the beans into a bucket or a bag. And at the end of that process, you've got several to a dozen or more buckets, 5-gallon buckets, which hold about 20 kilos or 40 pounds of beans, 44 pounds of beans, up to bags that can have as much as 110 pounds of beans in them. And those then have to be taken to the weigh and pay spot. Now, that could be at the farm gate, that could be at the entrance road to that farm, or if that farm is made, that a lot of farms don't have a road to them, that you have to walk to the nearest village to that farm. So a lot of times those beans need to be transported to the nearest village, where we would be waiting with a transport vehicle, scales, and cash to pay the farmer. So that second step is breaking the pod breaking point to the weigh and pay point. And that's a little bit different for each farm. Like I say, there are farms that aren't really in a village that are alongside the highway. And we would stop at the entrance road to that farm, or even pull all the way up to the house.
So the farmers are responsible for bringing,
the farmers are
who's responsible for bringing the cacao that has been scooped out of the pods from the cacao pod collection point over to the weigh and pay? The farmers themselves, or our team? The
farmer is, but very, very frequently, probably in a majority of cases, our team is there to help.
We got to go help them.
And so that step right there can be devilishly hard. So that step can be really easy. Like the farm is right on the side of the road and where our cars are going anyhow. And all we do is stop on our weigh, pay, and done. Or that farm can be, a 25-minute walk to the nearest village. And that village is a torturous hour and 20-minute drive from our facility. And that farmer his kids might not be there to help, or he might have a hurt foot. And he might need some help. She might need some help. Now, typically a farm that's that removed has stock animals. So typically those beans would come on the backs of donkeys. But there are times when that's not available. So there are times when you just have to be a human donkey, and you just have to put beans on your shoulder and just get them to the weigh and pay point. And that can be in the rain, in the mud, uphill, heavy, really, really heavy, slippery. And that can be, I'm thinking of one time in a little village called Osorco, which has a very raggedy bridge across a raging small river. And at one point, one of the cables broke on that bridge, and they didn't feel comfortable taking pack animals across it. So the farmer took a big risk. This was Don Osorio and a couple of other guys. They took a big risk, and they just hoofed those beans across that bridge, even though the bridge was not doing well. And they just deposited them on the other side, and there were no pack animals. And so me and the crew had to just hoof them back to the village. That's a story we've told before, where I didn't think I was going to make it, but I gutted it through.
Well, so a lot of people, when they hear the word logistics, aren't thinking about hiking product up mud hills. But that is part of logistics. I mean, just walking it out.
Donkeys, mules we've had them strung across the gas tanks of motorcycles. Sometimes, any potential conveyance to get those beans from the collection point on the farm, the break open point on the farm, to the weigh and pay point has been considered and used. All of it. I would imagine, and it's usually just human power.
And so I would imagine that this scenario that we're describing is general in the world, as long as what you're talking about is small hold cacao farming.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter if you're in Africa or Vietnam or Sri Lanka or wherever cacao grows. Like if you're in a remote area of a rainforest and you're taking cacao to some central buying point, like there's no way around it. There's no roads. You're hoofing it, or you're using pack animals. That's what it is worldwide.
I've been to 3 or 4 different growing districts in Vietnam, and those places were a lot more built up than where we operate, and motorcycles could get all the way to any farm that was out there. And so in that case, they have special baskets that mount to, and these are not, by the way, these are small motorcycles. These are little 80cc Honda Aero, a tiny little, more like a scooter, really. And they have special baskets that are mounted to the back of those on a big bracket, and they fill those with the actual pods, and then they take the pods unbroken. In that particular case, they prefer to break the pods at the post-harvest processing facility. But yes, still somebody has to take them from the tree to where they can load them onto the motorcycle. So from the tree to the place where we weigh and pay, in some ways it can be the most difficult part. It's really, really hard sometimes to get it there, particularly when you take into account the weather. Man, oh man, those torrential rains will just make everything so much harder, so much harder.
Yeah.
From the weigh and pay point, it's got to get then to our our bean processing facility, and it's got to be the same day, and we got to get them in the fermenter boxes that day. So for the first several years that we did this, we contracted with trucks and station wagons in Puerto Ciruelo, in the little town, to meet us up there and pick up loads of beans and take them down, and we would pay by weight. And then finally, which is tough because you've got competing agendas. We would like that vehicle to be kind of on our schedule and to make multiple trips and so forth. But the vehicle owner has one thing in mind, which is save gas money. So sometimes they want to wait and take a really, really excruciatingly full load, and you've got people down in your plant doing nothing, waiting for beans to show up. It's just not efficient.
Shoot hoops,
right? Cut your toenails, all kind of stuff's going on down there. But eventually we bought our own truck, and that pickup truck was able to kind of revamp and make a lot more efficient and timely that stretch. So stretch 3, we've got 3 steps in the logistics chain right now. You got tree to the break open point, you got break open point to the weigh and pay point, and now we're on step 3, which is weigh and pay to the bean processing facility, the MP, the Módulo de Procesos Post Cosecha. And so from the weigh and pay point to the MP has been everything from great big trucks to station wagons. We've taken them on we've strapped them onto motorcycles. We had our own pickup truck. But that's always a vehicle.
Yeah, and on that step, even though it's easier than taking it from the farm to the weigh and pay, you're still having to navigate terrible rainstorms and just really low quality unpaved roads, dirt
really
roads that
bad
get muddy,
roads, washed out bridges.
How many times have you fallen off your motorcycle riding on those roads?
I don't know, 20. I never forget one of the first times I was there, we didn't have cacao on, but your dad, who, if you're a big meathead, your dad is pretty much just as big of a big old lunkhead as you. I see where you get it, and you come by it honestly.
I'm getting pretty sick of you calling me a lunkhead, dude. Like,
well, what are you gonna do about it, dude? Huh?
Well, hey, everybody knows Leonardo da Vinci was 6'4".
Nobody knows that. That's because that's an untrue fact. Leonardo da Vinci was 5'7", Adam. That's a well-known historical fact.
Big guys are not lunkheads, dude. We're
5'7",
we're smarter.
143. Da Vinci
we're smarter than small guys.
Da Vinci was a trim fellow, I'm telling you, and I appreciate that.
A lot of people don't realize that Einstein was 6'6", 245.
Incorrect.
Google it.
I have Googled it many times.
You're a liar. Oh, you've never Googled that.
Einstein 5'9", 153. It's well known. He was a fanatic about controlling his weight.
Your exact size.
I'll have you know, sir, that I am 5'10", 156.
I've never seen. All right, keep going. So Einstein was a slightly shorter and a little bit heavier than you.
That's right, because he was focused on brain work and not so physically oriented like me.
All right, gotcha. Tesla, the scientist Tesla,
Nikola Tesla. Yeah,
he
famously 5'6".
Yeah, 6'5", 210.
I think he played linebacker on his high school team, didn't he?
He's a small forward.
He's two-directional. Two-way player. So Tesla, everybody knows. Not only was he a brilliant scientist, but that guy had pop.
No, he could shut you down on the defensive side.
Absolutely, he was known for the strip sack.
He was rangy.
Rangy. You like to catch it. You like to catch it in the low post, turn and jam. So anyhow, step 3, get it to the processing facility. That could be tough. When it's heavily raining and there's problems with the roads, and when it's heavily raining, there's problems getting it to the weigh and pay. And then we've not received beans until 9 o'clock at night. Sometimes we've had to work till 11 midnight, and then all gone to to have group dinner together after the work. But you got to get them in the fermenter box. So that step 3 is typically not bad, but it can be.
And that step requires a ton of taking a huge bag or taking a pretty heavy bag out of the back of a truck or a station wagon, hoofing it over to a fermenter box and dumping it in over and over again.
So you have to, so being the guy in the back of the truck sucks because there's cacao baba, there's the cacao juice starts there because towards the end of the day, you're running out of bags and buckets and you start overpacking these bags and they can have 120 pounds in this big, and it's a plastic bag that's stuffed like a sausage. There's nowhere to grip it. It's slippery, it's raining, and there's cacao juice, which is both slippery and sticky at the same time. And it's coating your feet. And there's nothing worse than the cacao juice when it gets into underneath your feet in your sandals. And every step you take is
and by the way, we should point out tons of people are wearing sandals because even though it's raining, it is super hot.
It's 95 degrees, pouring rain, and you're cold and hot at the same time. There's bees flying around everywhere, and you're trying to move these incredibly heavy bags. So if you're up in the truck, you've got to find a way alone to move that bag from resting against from the deepest part of the truck bed all the way to the lift gate. And sometimes those bags, and you can't slide it because you don't want to slice them open. And those bags are almost impossible to grip. That's a real back wrecker right there.
Yeah, and the bees are because the baba that you just mentioned, it's super it's sugary, and the bees love it, and they come around. So you're doing a lot of this work, especially during the day, with a literal swarm of bees flying around.
A literal swarm of bees. Luckily, these are Africanized honeybees. These are they do sting you, but they're not there to mess with the humans. They're there
but then you get stung every day.
You get stung when they accidentally fly into you, or you accidentally grab something that they landed on. But I've never known them to swarm.
I got so used to being stung by bees. Before that, I was kind of scared of bees. Now,
I'm probably allergic to bees.
Yeah, now bees don't scare me at all.
Yeah,
because I got stung so many times up there.
I mean, how many times did you say you got stung in a half year in the MP?
30.
Yeah, I think I've been stung
maybe more.
Yeah, I've been stung 200 to 400 times.
I know. I mean, yeah. I mean, I feel like I got stung every day, maybe once or twice a day.
The worst is when you're mixing the beans, when you're doing the pre-sort of the beans, and the beans are raw and cold, and they got all that great sugar water on them, and the bees are landing on them and then getting buried. The beans get mixed, and they get buried and they die down inside the cacao beans. And then you reach down in the beans to turn them and aerate them. And that dead bee is down there, and his dead body stings you on your fingertip. Oh, such a pain. So painful.
Yeah. But there's nothing you can do about it except for
nothing you can do about it. He's already dead, so there's no vengeance to be had.
Yeah, you can't yell at him, or you can't air him out.
No. So that's step 3, getting it down to the MP. And then you go, we've talked a little bit about the post-harvest process before. They go through fermentation, etc. And at the end of the processing, what you've got is a dry, a fermented, dried cacao bean ready for export in a jute bag, 50 kilos or 100.
For people who don't know what a jute bag is, it's a burlap.
It's a food grade burlap sack. The food grade burlap is manufactured in Bangladesh and India only. And they import because the plant sisal that you need basically only grows there in commercial quantities. They use a special kind of process to make them food grade. They ship those all around the world. Peru has a couple of importers. We buy them by the 1,000. And bring a big pallet of them up to the facility. And that's what you export cacao in, food grade burlap sacks from India. And so talk about the logistics. There's a whole nother thing. They've got to take that product all the way to their processing facility and make it and ship it in containers.
And it's a plant too.
Yeah, it's a plant too. And then we have to go pick that up on the coast and take it to camp. Oh boy, never mind. And so we've got these bags. And so then the step 4 is they've got to go from our warehouse to the port. And this can be sometimes 2 steps. Sometimes they have to change vehicle. They used to have to change vehicles every time before there was a bridge. But now, since there's a bridge into Puerto Ciruelo, we'll just talk about the modern version. A big truck comes into Puerto Ciruelo that we've contracted and picks up 8 to 14 tons. We've sent more, 8 to 14 tons, metric tons, 2,200 pounds, 1,000 kilos of cacao beans in 50 kilo or 110 pound sacks. So there's 20 sacks to the ton. And if we send 12 tons in a shipment, then that is 240 big, heavy bags. So you need to load those onto a truck. So basically you put a big, thick not that wide wooden plank between the
Yeah,
truck
maybe
and
like
the
a
ground.
2x6 or 2x8 or something.
More
like
than
that.
6. Typically, it's about 10 inches wide and it's about 4 inches thick. And
All
it's
right, a 4x10.
probably, yeah, it's like a 4x10, and in length, it'll be probably 12 to 16 feet long. This is stout wood. And you put that between the back of the truck and the ground. You kind of set it up on something so it doesn't rock around and move. You get it very stable. And then you've got 2 people inside the warehouse that are responsible for lifting the bags up onto the shoulder of a never-ending series of 5 or 6 carriers, bag carriers. And so
those 5 guys are going to carry 280 to 300.
that's right. So they'll carry
heavy bags
40 or 50, 60 heavy bags each up but I will tell you this, and I was always terrible I can lift the bags easily enough, but I was always terrible at going up that plank. I've fallen off that plank with 110 pounds of cacao on my shoulder.
Man.
Enough times to know that that's not my thing. So I would always be inside the warehouse, one of those 2 guys lifting the bags up onto the people's shoulders. So let me tell you about that job. This is not really logistics, but man, oh man,
it is though. It is logistics.
Oh, that's a lot of work. I mean, that is the sweatiest, back-breakingest work you can do. So you've got 12 tons of cacao. So I'm just doing the math right now. That's 12 times 2,640
pounds.
26,400 pounds.
Yep.
And the person who's inside the warehouse has to lift every single one of those bags. So you've got 2 guys lifting those up. So every time you load that, you lift 13,200 pounds of cacao. And I have done that dozens of times.
And how long does that take?
Hours. That takes to load 12 tons onto a truck takes 2.5 hours, probably, if you got 4 or 5 guys loading on the truck and 2 guys lifting them up. And man, you got to lift every bag. And so, as you know, those cacao bags, they have one end which is sewn shut, which has 5 or 6 inches of spare like burlap on the end of it. That end is easy because there's a bunch of material to grab onto. But if you get the other end, the end that is packed full of cacao, there's just a kind of a corner and it's hard. There's no great way to get a grip on it. And burlap is rough. It braids your hand.
You have no choice but to hug it to kind of get up.
No, you can't hug it. You've got to squat down and grab those corners. And there's a little bit of a tassel of loose burlap that hangs off that corner. And it's just like grip. It's just forearm grip. And you've got to just grab it by that corner and just 1, 2, 3, boom, get it up. And you lift it all the way from the ground up to somebody's shoulder and put it on their shoulder. It's a lot of work, man. It's a lot of work.
That is heavy work, dude.
It is heavy work.
All right. So now it's all loaded up and
it's on this truck. The truck is lined in plastic. We top them with plastic.
Who do you rent this truck from? Just a local business?
Yes, it could be a cargo company or just a local transport guy who's got a truck. We try to give those contracts.
And they do the driving.
And they drive. They have a co-pilot, a pilot, and the price includes gas. That they'll lock that truck up, and then that'll take about 40 hours of driving to go from our facility to the port terminal in Callao, just outside Lima.
And describe the route to us here.
So that will be a small 2-lane country highway to Haiyan, and then a slightly larger 2 to 3 lane regional highway from Haiyan to a place about 30 miles from Haiyan called Chamaya, which is the crossroads. And then they're on the major east-west national highway of northern Peru, which is called the Fernando Belaunde. And this road, this road, it goes for, I don't know, 600-700 miles from the coast all the way past Tarapoto. And it winds up through the Andes and down and along river valleys and up over another high pass and down into the low Amazon jungle. And the Andes are a young, dynamic mountain range, and constant mudslides, constant floods, constant erosion problems from the heavy rains. So this road and
just the curviest, craziest blind corners,
hundreds of switchbacks, crazy.
And the dude's driving a big semi, like a big truck with almost 30,000 pounds of cacao in it. Making turns, blind switchbacks, mudslides.
There's 1,000 other trucks on the same road, all doing the same thing with products coming from the interior going out to the coast. I mean, it's a crazy situation. So that drive from Chamaya to the coast on the Fernando Belaunde, what they call it, the Belaunde Terry Highway. It's commonly just known as the Belaunde. That drive on the Belaunde can be unremarkable and take, in a car, it would take about 5.5 hours. In a laden truck, it will take about 12 hours. That can be an unremarkable trip that passes without incident, or it can take, I mean, I've been on a bus on that road that got trapped behind a mudslide and then got trapped in between two mudslides, and we didn't move for 3 days. I mean, there was nothing they could do. The mudslide just kept sliding and the rain just kept falling, and there were probably 15 different places where the road was blocked, and they brought heavy equipment to dig us out, but there was nothing you could do. There's nothing you could do. They're not going to be airlifting people out by helicopter. So a lot of people will like take their luggage and start trying to walk for it. Some car, invariably a car will urgently feel like they need to get past that and try to go, over or through or around the mudslide and get stuck or go down in the river and wash away. People die in these things all the time.
And along the side of those roads, also you drive through tons and tons of small little villages,
tiny little villages,
just country villages,
aggregations of 4 or 5 houses at a wide spot in the road with a tiny little bodega. And so it's a real boon to the local people when that happens, because all of a sudden there's all these people trapped that need food.
Yeah.
And they go out and start selling. They pop up popcorn and they go out. They get all that stuff from the bodega.
Well, hey, that's how you make money, by solving problems and giving people something they want or need in the moment.
There's nothing more incredible than seeing a 60-year-old lady in sandals made of recycled tire treads with her 32-year-old daughter that's got a baby on her hip, carrying a cart over a mudslide to get to the other side where all the buses are trapped. And the cart is got like a burner set up and a gas tank in it so that they can make food and sell food for all the people trapped in a mudslide. I mean, it is truly awe-inspiring.
That's a hustle, man. Those ladies are hustlers.
That's a few times a year income opportunity.
I know, but
they maximize.
Yeah, that's hard work, and they get after it. So
absolutely.
All right. So now once you get off that road into the coast, then what happens?
You turn left and go south on the Panamericana, which is a road that goes from the tip of Patagonia all the way up to Alaska, with only a tiny little break at the place where Colombia transitions into Central America, which is called the Darien Gap. There's about 100 and something miles that a highway cannot be built across.
So what does the Panamericana end up being called in the United States?
That's probably Highway 5. I think
it must turn into 5. Yeah,
it's the 5 north. Yeah, the 5 goes all the way from the border, from the border of Mexico to the border with Canada.
Unbelievable.
So, yeah. And that Panamericana goes literally, and then it turns into something else. And Canada goes all the way up to Alaska. I think it's the Yellowknife Highway 99.
So you turn left and start heading south on the
Turn left and start heading south. That highway can be, I mean, it goes fast, but that's not a great thing because it's deadly dangerous. People are driving badly. They're driving overnight. They're not paying attention. There's lots of construction. The road is in bad condition.
When you drive through some pretty dicey towns where people might rob you.
Very dicey towns. So that stretch, like I say, in the best of situations, it takes probably 40 to 42 hours. In the worst situation, it could take a week, and has. What is our team doing? Are they following this guy down, or do they just fly to the coast? No. So
or take a bus directly to Lima?
By our team, I think you're talking about me.
Yeah, or Oscar now.
Now it's Oscar Ayala, great guy. So typically in the early days of this, we had to do 2 segments. One was from Puerto Cervelo across the river, because we had to cross the river on the ferry, the ferry rafts. It necessitated a smaller truck that could only take 2 to 5 tons. And so we would have to have multiple trucks with a smaller amount of cacao that would all go in a convoy to Haiyan. And then in Haiyan, we would transship to a bigger truck. And so in the early days when we would do that, we would actually have our guys riding with shotguns on top of the cacao to Hainan, because things were a little less settled in those days and there was a risk of getting our cacao robbed. And so we would actually, that you've heard the term riding shotgun, it means something different now, but what it originally meant was somebody riding on top of the cargo or the carriage carrying people with a shotgun, waiting to repel, criminals. And we actually did that.
How many years did we actually carry firearms in these shipments for?
A couple of years, the first couple of years.
Yeah.
And then things got the security situation got a little better along that highway.
Gotcha. And so they're heading due for Lima now, right?
Right. So now they're in Lima and they're arriving in Callao. And that is the big ocean port of Lima. So that's stage 4. Stage 5 is getting them off the truck into a shipping container and on a boat. I could do a whole podcast on that, but suffice it to say,
we will.
It's complicated, bureaucratic, paperwork heavy, and we need to pay off various people along the way to make it happen. The only thing I'll mention is the linchpins to that whole operation are the blue collar guys, the stevedores. Stevedore is a real thing that still exists, and these are young men, typically rural people that have come to Lima to work, who have some kind of a family connection to the crew chief, who've gotten on and got this plum job at the port terminal. And their job is to carry stuff from one vehicle into an ocean container all day, every day.
Hey man, let me just chime in here. Mm-hmm. We've touched on a little bit, but essentially our entire civilization and way of life is based on logistics. I mean, it's easy to forget that. And stevedores are fundamental to this whole process.
Absolutely.
Like all civilization is influenced by what people do at ports.
Yes.
Because everything that we consume comes through ports.
And always has been. That's right. And so we get it in the container and get the container on the boat. There's a global shortage of shipping containers. They're in
right now. There is. Yeah.
They're in short supply where they need to be, and there's too many of them where they don't need to be. And there's a problem of global proportions right now. It's been very difficult. Boats are canceling now. It's been very difficult for us to get reservations on cargo ships and to get containers that are good quality. It really pays to have a good long-term relationship with your customs broker, because they're the ones that can arrange all this stuff. So we do have that, and we get them in the container and on the ship, and then that ship sails, and you have to put absorbent panels inside these to suck up any moisture that's in the air so that you don't get damage to your beans. And you put forrado, you line this thing with heavy grade craft paper on the inside, and there's all kind of steps to it. It's in the container, it's on the boat. Step 4 done. Step 5 begins. That boat then takes off from Callao, goes up the west coast of South America, goes through the Panama Canal, goes through.
Do containers change boats at the Panama Canal?
They do sometimes. It depends. Occasionally they're on a boat that's going to then continue. So if we're sending something to Oakland, California, which is our typical inbound port for beans coming to the United States, then yes, they always intership, because the same boats do not run from the west coast of North America up the west coast of South America to the west coast of North America. So they always transship at Balboa, Panama, or I forget the name of the place in Mexico.
Yeah. Okay.
And then sometimes they transship before or after the Panama Canal, but on one boat or another, they've got to go through the Panama Canal. And then typically they will that boat will touch ports on the northern coast of South America in Venezuela and Colombia, maybe Suriname, and then go to Europe, or it will touch ports on the southern rim of North America, Texas, Louisiana, Florida, before heading across and going to Europe.
And it's due for the port of Rotterdam.
And it's going to the port of Rotterdam or Antwerp.
Or Antwerp, Belgium.
Typically, which is one big complex, really, but typically Rotterdam for our purposes. And that's segment 5. It gets to Rotterdam, the busiest ocean port in Europe and one of the top 5 busiest ocean ports in the world, after 3 in China and 1 in South Korea, I believe. This is a huge port complex, absolutely stunningly enormous and busy, with 100,000.
It's commerce. It's pure
containers.
commerce. And hey, the Netherlands has been the center of commerce for hundreds of years.
Nobody does commerce like the Dutch, and especially ocean commerce, ocean-based commerce. So it gets to Rotterdam, and your customs broker on that side has to go through a tremendous amount of bureaucracy and
Yeah,
paperwork.
and to paint a picture, what happens with these containers is they get offloaded off of a boat and stacked up. on
5 to
these-
6 high, 5 to 6 containers high,
Yeah, they get stacked up. So there's these little piles of containers all over the place.
and not little.
No, and well, 5 or 6, right? But there's these piles of containers all over the place. And
one segment, one just sort of area, they have like neighborhoods of containers that are stacked up. Like they call them neighborhoods, and they have names for them, quadrants and sectors and so forth. And one quadrant, one sector could be a stack of 6 high, which is 20 wide and 50 deep. This could be 5,000-6,000 containers, all with cargo that's got to get somewhere.
and a machine has to come over and lower these containers off the stack.
A container hauler, a container crane. Yes.
Yep, right, and then move them over to a place where the cargo could be unloaded and put
container
onto
crane
a
is-
truck.
Right. A container crane is one thing. It's got a big boom with 4 cables that run off it. And it's got this big clamping device at the bottom, and it lifts directly up containers off the boat and puts them onto another vehicle, onto a truck, or lays it down. And then a container hauler, which is like, these things are incredible. It's about the size of a really big, like, bulldozer, and it's got this big long articulated arm, and it's got this clamp that can widen out to 40 feet wide, the width of the length of a large ocean container, and it just grapples onto the edge. It's got a locking mechanism, and then it picks up a 40-foot fully laden container with 20 tons of stuff. And it rolls it around, and then it can lift it up as high as 50 feet in the air with an articulated boom that it has on the end of it. It's like watching ballet, watching these things move, and the crane drop the container and a container hauler pick it up and go put it on the stacks. And it's all very, very organized. So our container is one of thousands.
Yeah,
and
and if I recall correctly, part of the shortage that's happening is either there's not enough people to operate those
Mhm.
cranes, or actually they just have a shortage of the cranes altogether.
And well, they've got a shortage right now. What's happening, at least in the United States, west coast of the US, is there's not enough truck drivers to go pick up the containers that are waiting to go out of the port
Gotcha,
and to their
gotcha.
final destination. So there's a shortage of drivers. If anyone out there is looking for it's not necessarily glamorous work, but it's lucrative. You could be a truck driver that goes to the port and picks up containers and takes them where they need to be, and you could be making $100,000 a year in your first year.
And civilization depends on that. People forget that trucks driving stuff around is a big part of what makes everything work.
So do the right thing, people. Go out there and become a truck driver. I mean, come on.
Why don't you do it, Brian?
What's that?
Why don't you moonlight as a truck driver?
I moonlight as a truck driver.
Yeah,
That's something I do. Yeah, I work the night
Well,
shift. So
tell
typically
Amara. I think Amara
typically
could-
when we get done doing the podcast, I go pull a shift and move.
I'm just saying, how old's Amara?
13 now.
Hey, 3 years, man. She'd get her license.
Don't remind me, man.
Yeah, but I'm just saying, you get her right into the truck driving game, man.
To
She
all
can-
the parents of 13-year-olds out there, the idea of her driving on the public roads that I plan to be driving on in 3 years, it's terrifying, absolutely terrifying. I mean, she can't keep track of her eyeglasses. She can't remember to take a shower, and what she's going to be driving. Okay, I digress.
Hey, if she gets licensed, she's on the road, dude.
I'm going to have to intercede with the Washington Department of Licensing, because this just doesn't seem right to me.
All right,
Anyhow,
well, hey, it's inevitable, bro. So just
Yeah.
get used to it right now.
that's step 5. It goes to the destination port and goes through a crazy process and ends up on a truck. In this case, it's not even on a truck. It ends up on a barge,
A river
ship.
barge.
A river barge, and it goes upriver to Basel, Switzerland. So this is step 6. Step 6 of the logistics chain, from the port of Rotterdam by river barge. I don't know, I forget the name of that river. And it goes up, I'll look up the name of the river. It goes up to the Felklin AG warehouse in Basel, Switzerland, and gets offloaded at the warehouse.
Yep.
And that means that people need to take it out of the container and up to and into the warehouse and then stack it. These aren't on pallets. There's no forklift that can do this. It's people. Again, these are high paid European stevedores. Oh boy.
They're really good at what they do.
So Franz
and on schedule.
Franz and Jacques and Peter and all these fellows are.
You think you could pay off these stevedores as well, or is that strictly a Peruvian thing?
I think if you offered these guys money, they would look at you as if you were a three-eyed bug alien that popped up out of the rocks. I don't think that's part of the culture.
No, it's just all very rule based and formalized.
I believe that they're well paid. They belong to a union, and that the idea of them receiving a tip would be so alien to them.
Hey,
so that's step 6.
Hey, warehouse. You know what? Let me suggest something. We're going to be running long here. I think we got to call this part 1, dude. Okay, and I don't believe we're even halfway through.
No, because we still have to get it to the chocolate factory and get it to the people. I mean, I hope people are understanding. I hope the listeners are understanding what a crazy ride this product goes on before it gets to you, and appreciating some of the hard work and dedication by thousands of people to get this product.
And let me just point out that the good old folks over at Fortunato Chocolate, FortunatoChocolate.com, we're paying for all of this. All the way along the line, we're laying out money in advance of product, and our supply chain takes 6 to 8 months.
That's right.
This whole thing is happening over the course of, right now we're probably 2.5, 3 months. No, because when you talk about taking the stuff off the trees, I mean, we're probably 5 months in at this point. We're 5 months into the supply chain at this point.
We could be that much, maybe a little less, but
maybe 3 to 5 months.
But this is still raw bean. This is not a product.
This is not a product. So
that's right.
Ultimately, our customers are the ones that are paying for this entire process. But we're loaning money to the customers in advance here.
That's right.
To get this product made for them.
That's right. And you know what? We appreciate all you folks that are listening, and I'm even going to express appreciation for the people that aren't listening. They're not going to hear it. Hopefully they'll get a little,
you just put it out in the universe.
Something in the air is going to be floating around, and they'll understand how grateful we are. And I would just like to say thank you. And I'd like to also say, go over to FortunatoChocolate.com, visit the website. All the northern states are now open for shipping. The southern states, as things cool down, are going to come open. And we've got all our chocolate in stock. We've got our nibs in stock, and we're looking forward to seeing your orders. We love getting your emails. We love getting your messages. Thank you so much for all the reviews, and just everybody who's listening and buying our chocolate. Thank you so much. We love you, and we couldn't do it without you.
Every single thing that we're describing here is because there's people who are willing to buy the chocolate and participate in this process. I mean, if you're buying the chocolate, you're the main driver of this whole process. We work for you, basically. We're the ones that are organizing all this so that we can produce something that you're going to be able to enjoy. So thank you. Nothing that we're describing here would happen unless our customers were there to buy the product. That's
100% correct. So it's a wild ride. It's a wild and woolly ride, but it all happens because people want to taste this stuff, and we just couldn't be more appreciative.
Yeah. So why don't you go ahead and sign us off? I wish we had David here for the jingle. Man, he did a good job singing that jingle yesterday on the last podcast.
He put some juice into that I just don't have in me. I mean, he did a great job with the jingle, I gotta say. In fact, we need to get a drop. That should be our first sound drop of him doing the jingle, and we should play that. But
you want me to do the jingle today?
You know what? I'd love to hear you do the jingle.
All right, here we go, everybody.
Bring the heat. Bring the heat.
Here we go. Fortunato, yum.
All right. That was hot and spicy. Bye, everybody.
All right, everybody. Talk to you later.